The first thing I noticed that morning was how calm my father sounded. Not angry, not nervous, just certain. He stood at the witness table in a pressed shirt that made him look older than I remembered. The courtroom lights were too bright for anyone to hide in. But he didn't seem bothered by them. His voice carried easily when the judge asked him to explain the petition. 280 acres. He described it like numbers on a ledger. Land that had been in the family for decades. Land that had become difficult to maintain. Land that a developer now wanted for a housing project. Then the judge asked about me. My father barely hesitated. She walked away from this family and never looked back. The sentence landed softly in the room, but it moved through me like a physical thing. Not sharp. Just heavy. I didn't react. My attorney had warned me about that. Courtrooms weren't places for reactions. They were places for records. Still, hearing it said under oath felt different than hearing it in phone calls years ago. The story he told was simple. I'd left home, cut ties, stopped contributing. He had managed the property alone ever since. The taxes, the loans, the upkeep, everything had fallen to him. The developer's offer, he said, was the responsible choice. From the bench, the judge listened without interruption, occasionally making notes. Nothing about the room suggested anything unusual was happening. My father's confidence came from that quiet rhythm. Everything looked orderly. I kept thinking about a different kind of quiet. The kind you learn in the army when you're waiting for finance to process a transfer. The kind that comes with staring at a screen in a temporary office, somewhere overseas, watching the confirmation numbers appear. For 12 years I had wired money home. Sometimes large transfers. Sometimes smaller ones when deployments got complicated. I never attached speeches to them. I just wrote things like property tax or loan payment in the notes. I assumed the land mattered to both of us. I assumed wrong about some things. When my father finished speaking, my attorney didn't stand immediately. She waited until the judge closed his notebook. The pause was long enough to feel deliberate. Then she rose. Your Honor, she said, before the court considers the petition to sell, we'd like to submit additional financial documentation. She reached down and placed a sealed folder on the table. I hadn't seen it before that morning. My father looked at it briefly, then back at the judge. His expression didn't change. Not yet. My attorney rested her hand on the folder like it might slide away if she didn't. Inside are 144 Army finance receipts, she said calmly. Transfers made by my client over the past 12 years directly related to the maintenance evasion of the property in question. The room didn't erupt. There was no sudden drama. The judge simply held out his hand. The folder moved across the table. I watched him open it slowly, the paper seal tearing with a quiet sound that somehow carried through the courtroom. He began turning pages. Finance confirmation numbers, dates, routing codes, property tax references, emergency repair payments, mortgage restructuring transfers. The judge read longer than I expected. Occasionally he adjusted his glasses and went back a page. Across the room, my father had stopped looking at me. For the first time that morning, he seemed unsure where to rest his eyes. The judge finally closed the folder and leaned back slightly. Mr. Carter, he said to my father, these documents indicate substantial financial contributions from your daughter toward the property over a significant period of time. My father opened his mouth, then closed it again. The judge continued in the same steady tone. Given the information presented today, the court cannot treat this petition as a straightforward sale request. The ownership and financial representation issues will require further review. His pen moved across the docket. The proposed sale is paused pending that review. No one raised their voice. No one celebrated. Procedure had simply shifted direction. For 12 years I had imagined conversations like this going very differently. Angry confrontations, long explanations, arguments about loyalty. None of that happened. Instead, the truth arrived in a stack of receipts printed by a military finance office thousands of miles away. Records don't need emotions to speak for them. The hearing ended quickly after that. Papers were gathered. Chairs moved. Lawyers spoke in quiet voices near the clerk's desk. My father walked out of the courtroom without looking at me. I didn't follow him. Outside, The air felt strangely ordinary. Traffic moved past the courthouse steps like nothing important had happened inside. My attorney stood beside me for a moment. "You handled that well," she said. I nodded, though I wasn't sure what handling it meant. For years I'd believed keeping the land alive meant keeping the family connected to it. Now I understood those two things weren't the same. The developer might never get the property. The acreage might stay exactly where it had always been. But something else had shifted permanently inside that courtroom. For the first time in a long time, the official record of my life no longer belonged to my father. It belonged to the facts.